Welcome to Small Town Bonsai and Bonsai Therapy. Today, we're going to repot this tree. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we started styling this little tree. We were going to, the point of this styling was a very initial first time we styled it. If you haven't watched that video, go ahead and find it and watch it. And we decided we were going to give it two options for the future. One in which it was going to be a more traditional style tree, or we could later on choose to have a more of a swamp style kind of flat top, as they call it. So we have options for the future, because this was the very first time this tree got styled. So we just make branch selection, and we're gonna see what the future brings. But today, we're going to repot it, because this little container right here, it's a little compact. When we're trying to develop the tree, we don't want to have those roots too compact. We want the roots to be able to grow. The development of the top depends a lot on the development of the roots. Nice, healthy roots will give you a nice, healthy tree on the top. So for that purpose, a lot of people think that because you're working on bonsai, you're going to bring the tree to a smaller and smaller pot. But sometimes you got to go bigger, allow the tree to develop everything you need it to develop, and then you bring it down to a smaller pot. If not, your branches are going to stay small. They're not going to develop a lot of secondary and tertiary branches. That's something we need in order for the tree to look older. All right, let's go ahead and start with the process. So right off the bat, I need my wire cutter, which is the one tool that I didn't bring out, of course. But this tree is tied up right here at the bottom. I'm going to use this one right here. I cut those wires just so I can remove the tree from here. See how the roots already, I don't know if the camera can catch this, roots are already coming from the bottom right here. I mean, this tree has been here for a little bit. It's developing pretty well, but it definitely going to benefit from a bigger pot. Let's see if I can get it out of here. I'll do it right here, so hopefully I don't make too much of a mess. There we go. There it is. Very good. All right. All right. I see where the wires that were holding the tree to the pot are. I'm gonna start removing those. Hopefully they don't make too much of a mess. You know, I'm like a little kid. When I'm working with dirt, I feel like a little kid. Keeps me young. So, John, if I make a mess, I'm gonna apologize. All right.
Work outside, right?
Work outside. So one of the things we're gonna do, eventually I'll be able to remove that, is we're gonna start by removing the dirt from the top. That way, I can actually see the Nebari, see the roots right here that we're working with. And I believe this tree came from Underhill Bonsai.
That's correct.
Yeah, they kind of specialize in this kind of tree on bald cypresses. They're in Louisiana. I know the guy from Underhill was at the convention last year, correct? So he was doing presentations, and I think that's where this tree came from. They do have a function this year. I believe is, unfortunately, I won't be able to make it. I would love to go to their function. It's the same same weekend that we have the spring celebration in Tallahassee, and I have a booth at that festival, so won't be able to make it. But if anybody wants to go check them out, and I'm not ashamed of giving some other really good artists a little bit of promotion. We can learn from everyone. All right, so what we're gonna do is try to clean the top, find the roots. Look at the roots; they're so nice. I don't know if the camera can catch that, but they're very, very nice roots. So, and then we're gonna try to get the bottom loosened up. So you do the top, you do the bottom. See how tight that is? When this tree decides to wake up and find the room that we're gonna give it, it's gonna start developing real nice. It has a lot of roots down here, and put it like this so it's a little bit more visible for the camera. Let me move all this stuff. Center myself a little bit. Look at that. Yep. Oops. I'll sweep this for you, John. So we're starting to be able to remove all this mess with it. You see how dense those roots are? We want them to have a little bit of more room to develop and grow. Okay. Look at that. Okay. I might actually have to saw that. Interestingly enough, they're very, very dense. Okay. I'll put it here. Somehow it's not. I really like this little saws, even though every time I use them, somehow I end up cutting myself. So we're just gonna cut that first line right here. It's so dense that I'm not being able to get in there. Thank you, John. So by doing this, I'm allowing myself to get to the other roots. That's such a healthy set of roots. Let's turn it around. Get up. Without messing with what is already wired. Just like that. And just okay. So look at that. Right? So that gives me a visual of what's at the bottom of this tree. There are some roots that are a little too thick. So we can start the process of cleaning this up. So once you do the top, you do the bottom, then you can get into the sides right here. Get some of this soil out. It seems like this tree has been grown on the ground We'll allow it to get thick, and then it was put in 100% organic material. So because we want to start developing as a bonsai, I'm not going to put it on bonsai soil, 100% bonsai soil. I'm going to put it in a mix of about 50-50 growing soil and bonsai soil. All right. See why I wanted to do that? If I do that without this, what a mess like that, and I'm already a mess. All right, so there are some roots here that I'm gonna leave for development purposes, but there's some others I'm gonna start cutting. So when you're cutting thicker roots like this, but you want that root to be alive, what you want to do is cut right below the smaller roots right on top. So what I'm doing is giving the tree the opportunity to have some of the thinner roots, which are the ones that actually feed the tree. See, all this thicker roots, all they do is they transport the water and the nutrients up, and they give the tree support. But the ones that actually absorb the water are those thinner roots that look like almost like little hairs coming out of the roots. So you always want to make sure when you cut a thicker root, if you want that root to stay alive. See, I don't know if the cameras can catch that, but I really want to show this. You got to, I don't know if you can see that right there. See the smaller roots on the bigger. You want to keep those. So you can go as high as you want, as long as there's some of those at the bottom, at the end of that root. And then that way you kind of allow the tree to have ways to get some water. So when this tree wakes up, he's not going to notice such a big difference. Okay. Does that make sense? Now, like I said before, bald cypresses, very resilient. If you do this at the right time, it's going to wake up and be like nothing happened. Time to start growing. These roots right here were so dense. See that if you don't do anything about it, it might be detrimental for the tree actually. Because then they get so dense that water can't get through. And you start noticing that the tree's suffering. And it's because we forgot this very important step. See, in nature, that's not a problem. Because in nature, they just throw roots wherever. You can find roots of one tree hundreds of feet away. But when you have them in a pot, then you have to provide that ability to get nutrients. And if it gets way too dense, they can't do it. So look at that. Okay. And later on, as the tree gets stronger, you can start doing even more as far as root selection is concerned. This root right here is kind of coming up. Not in the right spot. Look at that. Now we can see the structure a little better. There's some roots here that can go. Back. That's more or less. Okay. We can do a little bit of a selection here. See how this roots became completely flat because they were just against the plastic. So we're gonna kind of take off the ones that are not looking that great. And they're too thick. This one right here, gonna leave that side. I don't know, maybe it'll grow into something. Maybe you decide to take it off later on. But for now, all right. And we can see on the side right here, see how this is going out like that. Don't get nervous, John. It'll be okay. Start seeing a root system that is much better. I'm going to leave this for future purposes. First time we transplant this tree, we repot this tree. So if in the future we decide we don't like them, we can remove that. And you may or may not like them. It's up to you. Okay. So let's clean the bottom right here. Get a little flatter. Some roots that are a little cross. Okay. And you learn how to do this. Start seeing things and moving a little faster because you're ready what you can cut and you don't and can't cut. So at the bottom right there, the main right here was taken care of. So it's pretty clean. I think this is ready to go in for a bit of growing pot. We decided we're going to use this pot right here. Gives me a lot more room. You can see it fits really, really well. This tree, so it gives me room to grow. I'm gonna put my right here. Second. While you're doing this today, today's kind of a cold day. It's cloudy. The sun comes out every once in a while, so those roots are not gonna get dry. I strongly advise that you do it on a time when the roots are not gonna get dry, and if it's sunny and the roots are starting to get dry, just spray it with water. Keep it wet. That's the best way to go for it. Now, I got a mix over here. Like I said before, this is 50-50 bonsai soil and growing mix. So doing this, see, there's a little hill right where I want the tree. Little hill. You're gonna sit the tree right on that hill. Bam. Then you're gonna wiggle the tree down. That allows for the dirt to get in there. And the spaces that you want to they're getting. Of course, we want all the soil. I'm looking at that. That's the front. Or that's so is it more centered than a bonsai pot? In a bonsai pot, you don't want this perfectly centered. It's usually at one of the sides. But this is not for bonsai show. We're trying to develop the tree. So we can put it more or less centered so it can develop properly. I'm gonna tie it down and add more soil. I was gonna put it in a bonsai soil in a bonsai pot because it's gonna be for show. Then I would position it much better, one side or the other. Not being centered. All right. I'll tighten those up later on. But before I do that, I want to make sure I have enough soil. I have to make more mix. No problem. I make more mix. This is a big tree. That's what I do with it. Yeah, more mix. So I don't know if the camera can catch this or you can get it. Or I can move the tree.
So let's do it up there like that.
Yeah, let's move the tree. Let me move the tree just a bit. We're using potting soil. I'm going to count 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. And I'm going to use some of my universal bonsai soil. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is the mix that I make at Small Town Bonsai. It works really well for me, but it's not as expensive as like a Damala or Gomez or good stuff. That's great stuff, don't get me wrong. But sometimes you need something a little bit more economical that does the job. Small Town Bonsai Universal Mix does the trick for me. If you want some of that Universal Small Town Bonsai mix, just let me know. We can get you some. And it's a lot less expensive than the Akadama Pumice and Lava Rock. Okay, still have some left after that. All right. Now with a chopstick, I'm gonna start getting that soil in there. Right in between all the roots. Want to make sure there's no air pockets. And this might be a little bit of time-consuming process, but it's very, very important. You make sure all that soil goes into every little hole in there, every little place right there. You'll see that a lot of soil goes inside the tree, inside between the roots. You want to make sure it's all really nicely done. We're gonna do some more like that. Just want to make sure I have all those bases covered. About this same size, perhaps, as far as what is concerned, or a little smaller. As a smaller pot, it's gonna make the tree look bigger. The bigger the pot, the smaller the tree looks. So, if you want the tree to look bigger, use a little bit of a smaller pot. But always consider the health of the tree. That is truly the most important thing. If your bonsai is not healthy, then what are we doing? Right? You want to make sure that the tree is nice and healthy. Then you can put it in better pots. What's the advantage of a healthy tree? Many. Not only does it look better, but a healthy tree can fight illnesses and pests. Usually, when you see that your trees are getting some kind of illness, it's because their health was compromised. So their immune system, if we can use that comparison, is not strong enough to deter whatever is attacking them. That's why you see sometimes that you see in a nursery that there's a bunch of plants all together, and all of a sudden one of them in the middle doesn't look that healthy, but the other ones are. It happens with bonsais too. It's not because the pest is attacking. Well, it is because the pest is attacking one plant, but usually pests attack whatever they find. But the other ones were really healthy and strong, so they didn't. They were able to fight their illness, and they're doing well. But there was one plant in that bunch that was weak, and the weak one gets attacked a lot harder, and it can't fight the illness. So at that point in time, you need to make sure you remove it from the rest because you don't want the other ones to be exposed to that. But also try to see how you can make that plant a little healthier, a little stronger, see if it can actually fight. It makes sense. All right. With our tree firmly attached to the pot. Now, another lesson about that. Why do we attach the tree to the pot like that? A lot of people think it's, just because of the wind. Well, that has some reason to it. True. But good roots grow in darkness and without movement. When they start popping up new roots, you're going to see those little white heads coming out in a very thin, like hair-like root. Those are very, very fragile. If your tree can wiggle around and it moves, it breaks those little roots and the tree suffers for it. So you tie the tree to the pot mainly to avoid those kind of movements so the roots can grow without any issues. And of course, the pot is dark because roots like to grow in darkness. A little bit more soil. Especially right here. Put a lot of that over there. Look at that. See. And if you happen to have a cat or a dog or something that turns around, you don't have a tree rolling away from the pot. So that's always a good thing. Good mix. Look at that. So now this tree has a lot more space. We trimmed some of the roots that were not in the right place. You can see it's still dormant. So when it wakes up, it'll be like, woohoo, so happy. I got a lot more room now. The soil allows the tree to breathe, to have enough drainage. This soil's gonna drain real well, but it's gonna hold enough moisture. This plant, I think this plant is gonna be really, really happy. Here, go where it needs to go. And that's the repotting of this tree.
Beautiful.
Now I hope you like this video, and if you like it, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and you can go into the description. There you're gonna find different kind of tools that you can order, and even my book if you're interested in reading my little story. All right, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next.